Hey, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, boys and girls, scholars and laymen. Welcome to another wonderful edutainment edition of The Art of It Stinks. We all be live. We are live and in charge. Hey, I know it's a late start, but the show must go on. I'm gonna try to get y'all in here. Trying to wait till everybody to come on in. Come on in, Carol Ann. Come on in. Come on in. We're dealing with Black history mysteries and other unexplainables. 2018. A lot of strange things going on. People doing strange change. Excuse me. People doing strange things ain't getting no change for it. Go holler at Netflix. Doing strange things ain't getting no change. But a change is going to come, y'all. A change is going to come. Today's date is January 22nd, 2018. Today is the Life Affirmation Day. That's birthday, the Earth Day of one Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, arguably the greatest male singer of all time, of any genre. If you got good taste in music, you have to be a fan, or you have to respect the genius of a Sam Cooke. The music writing, not just the voice, but the music. I mean, the musicality of a Sam Cooke. Lyrical genius, vocal genius, visionary, Black man who want to own his own thing and run some things. But like I said, a lot of people are willing to do a lot of strange things for no change in 2018. And not just the change they jingle in your pocket or a Bitcoin, but the change. You know, Sam Cooke song, change gonna come. Change came. Still the same game. You know, but we're going to talk about Sam Cooke today, among other things. I want to talk about that. I think it's very timely to talk about Sam Cooke right now, especially with all that's going on. You think about the 60s, it was an era of protests. But the thing about the 60s that was so unique, you probably would have had more Black athletes kneeling with Kaepernick, saying like when brothers stood in solidarity with a Muhammad Ali for refusing to be drafted into the Vietnam War. Because you got to think about it. A lot of them cats had to get jobs during the off season. They wasn't millionaires back in 1960. Jim Brown was no millionaire by any means. He could still identify with the community. He could still identify with working class people, everyday folk. Jim Brown was very much an activist. I know people were upset when he visited with Trump, and people don't agree with some of his assessments about what's going on in the scene today, but don't knock his credentials. Jim Brown put in that work. He actually, just think about it. This guy was able he probably was really the first modern football player in a lot of terms, because he set the bar so damn high. In less than 10 years of playing professional football, he's still in the top 10 or top 15 or top 20 in a lot of the categories. But he set the standard for touchdowns, for rush yards. You got to think about it. O.J. Simpson, when he ran for 2,000 yards, not to take away anything from the juice, one of the greatest running backs ever. College professional ever. But Jim Brown was able to rush for over 1,800 yards with less games. Jim Brown supposed to won the Heisman Trophy Award back in the 50s, but they gave it to Paul Hornung for Notre Dame. Paul Hornung, no disrespect, could not carry Jim Brown's jockstrap. Jim Brown should have won the Heisman that year. It upset Dick Schaap so much that he resigned from the voting committee. The famous Dick Schaap, sports journalist, Dick Schaap. His son, or who I think that's his son, Jeremy Schaap, or whatever, for ESPN, whatever they do. See how the legacies work? White folks get started in something that makes sure their kids and their kids have something to look forward to. That's generational wealth. That's legacy. So you might be a D+ or C+ student, but you get into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, you're a legacy. White privilege is the real affirmative action. But we're going to talk about Sam Cooke and why Sam Cooke matters in 2018. It's interesting because what happened this past weekend with the revelations of Monique, I had my say recently. A lot of people had their say recently. And the thing about it is, I really don't have any problems with what Monique is saying. I have a problem with the problem that she's addressing. I don't have a problem with her saying that's her struggle, that's her pain, that's her story. And 2018 is that year. It's the year of the brawler. You have to fight for what you want. It's the brawler year. It's a brawler year. It's about street fighting at the suites and in the streets and all levels in between. You have to really be fighter mentality. Excuse me. You know, Sam Cooke, excuse me, was friends with Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. He was not afraid to stand with Muhammad Ali nor Malcolm X. He was not afraid to give to the movement. Same thing with Jimi Hendrix. You know, people talking about last December was the anniversary of the assassination of John Lennon. John Lennon, excuse me, of the Beatles. Very vocal about being anti-war activists, about being pro-peace. His song Imagine was assassinated at the Dakota up at NYC by allegedly Mark David Chapman, MK Ultra assassin. Because why will a person, after they shoot you, sit around for the police to come to arrest him? He allegedly shot John Lennon and just sat there and waited for the police. He could have got away with it. It would have been the perfect murder, the perfect crime. And allegedly, the doorman at the scene was an assassin for the CIA, a Cuban nationalist. Look this stuff up. I can't make this stuff up. Allegedly, the doorman that day that John Lennon got killed was CIA. And Mark David Chapman allegedly was MK Ultra. He was trained. How can you explain a guy with no visible means of income having the ability to travel around the world, stay at high-priced hotels? Look up Mark David Chapman. He's due for parole this year. I believe in August of 2018. He's up for parole. Been in jail for almost 40 years for the assassination of John Lennon. And also, we're dealing with the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. It's a good book to start you on your journey. The Plot to Kill King, written by Dr. William Pepper, who was a friend and confidant of Dr. King in the last year of his life, and also the lawyer for James Earl Ray and a King family confidant. He helped with them getting their civil trial that found the U.S. government guilty of killing Dr. King, of assassinating Dr. King, the King of Love. Like when Nina Simone said, the King of Love is dead. And we're dealing with the 50th coming up in Memphis. And also we got the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Robert Kennedy less than 2 months later. And they got both these men were killed at hotels. Sam Cooke was killed at the motel. Robert Kennedy was killed at the Ambassador Hotel out in California. In L.A., Sam Cooke was killed at the Motel Hacienda out in California, in L.A. Dr. King was killed at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. Allegedly, they were trying to get Dr. King in L.A., but they had, Bobby Kennedy's assassination scheduled. And according to Bobby Dick Gregory, he was on a TV show, a popular TV talk show out in Chicago. And Bobby Kennedy wanted Bobby Gregory to go out there with him as he campaigned. And Bobby Gregory would not do it. They said, they're going to get you. They're going to kill you. And this was recorded on the talk show. And it shook the talk show host so much because after Dick Gregory did that talk show, he called Bobby Gregory and said, look, man, Greg, are you okay? And Dick Gregory said, what you talking about? No, Dick Gregory talks about this. He talked about this on my show and in other outlets. That's why it's so important to support independent, especially Black perspective media. So I want to encourage people out there, if you have received anything of benefit from We All Be and from the Artivist, from your friend, Brother Ron, your brother in the struggle on the front lines, feel free to sponsor this program by doing a super chat and you'll be shout out. I want to thank the people who have signed up through patreon.com and also PayPal, donating or buying We All Be Artivist gear. These are things you can do to support the program. But getting back to Bobby Gregory, he was called by the talk show host from Chicago. And he told Dick, "Are you okay?" And he asked him, "You everything good?" And Dick said, "Yeah, man, what you talking about?" He said, "Man, you can level with me, man." He said the feds, the FBI, the men in black, whoever y'all call these folks, the G-men, visited that TV talk show host and took the footage of that TV show where Dick Gregory told Bobby Kennedy he would be assassinated in L.A., and it happened. And a lot of people don't understand James Earl Ray was out in California. James Earl Ray was in California for a number of months before the King assassination. See, that man, the same tricks, man. James Earl Ray went down to New Orleans before the King assassination to meet with some heavy hitters in organized crime and the U.S. Intelligence Committee. Read this book, The Plot to Kill King. I also got some other books I want y'all to read. I'll be interviewing people all the way up to the 50th anniversary of King assassination, and we'll be doing some incredible live events as well. But support We All Be, because we need y'all out there. Support this. Share this link of this program with your people, with your kinfolk, with your skin folk, with your enemies. Share this. This is very important stuff. But Bobby Kennedy was killed. The same thing Bobby Gregory, he said when he was asked about Malcolm X to see him at the Audubon. He said he's not going to get two for the price of one. And he said he told Representative Adam Clayton Powell Jr. to stay away as well, who was also a friend of Malcolm. But Sam Cooke, that thing has always been fishy. Very fishy circumstances of what happened to Brother Sam, the great Sam Cooke. He one of my favorite singers. Sam Cooke came from a gospel background. He was born January 22nd, 1931, by the river. He was born by the river. I don't know, it was a little tent. It was a little town known as Clarksdale, Mississippi. Sam Cooke was born into a family of a preacher man. His daddy was a preacher man, Reverend Cooke. And they all could sing. They just couldn't sing. They could sing, y'all. They could sing. So, yeah. And Clarksdale is interesting. Like, you know, that's why it's so important to know who your people is, who your tribe is. Clarksdale, Mississippi is a very fascinating place. I'm going to tell y'all why, in my humble opinion, why Clarksdale is so fascinating. You get the paintings. If y'all want paintings, I'm going to type it in the chat room. Go to r2c2h2.com. And also, I have shirts on sale and stuff like that. I'll post that all in the chat room for you all. It's also in the subscription box as well, too. It's also in the subscription box. But Sam Cooke was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi, by the river. He was born by the river. I don't know, it was a little tent, it was a small town. Clarksdale is fascinating. Clarksdale is basically about 2,000 people, right? Clarksdale, Mississippi. But some of the greatest music geniuses have came out of Clarksdale. Now, let me give you a little short lineup, a sample size of what I'm talking about here. Clarksdale not only produced a Sam Cooke, but also Ike Turner. Ike Turner is one of the architects of rock and roll. He's one of the founding fathers of rock and roll. Don't get it twisted. Listen to Rocket 88. You understand Rocket 88 with Jackie Brenston on vocals. That's Ike Turner and his Delta Cats. They recorded arguably the first rock and roll song, Rocket 88, which is about an Oldsmobile. See, that's hip hop. My Adidas, Air Force Ones. They always doing that. Black folks been doing that. Giving these white businesses and their corporations free promos in our music, in our song, Rocket 88. Ike Turner from Clarksdale, Mississippi. John Lee Hooker from Clarksdale, Mississippi, in Coahoma County. Also, Muddy Waters is from Clarksdale. Nate Dogg Smoke Weed Every Day is from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Charles Wright, Express Yourself. You express yourself, from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Rick Ross, not the drug dealer kingpin, but the rapper, Officer Ricky. He's from Clarksdale, Mississippi. So that's just a little sample of the folks from Clarksdale. So you got this one town, barely 2,000 people, about a 75-minute drive from Memphis, produced all this musical talent, music heavyweights in their own right, legends. That's Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's his Mississippi Delta, land of the rich soil, of the misery and the blues. That is the stuff. But Sam Cooke, of course, grew up in Chicago, sophisticated cat, was basically a music prodigy. We'll start out in gospel music with the Soul Stirrers, the great Soul Stirrers and the Highway QCs, I believe. And ended up becoming a crossover success in the late 50s. One of his biggest hits, You Send Me, all this stuff, the wonders of internet. I don't have to play any Sam Cooke songs on this show because, first of all, copyright, I don't own it. But also, you can hear Sam Cooke in all the music in all the places where there's technology. You hear Sam Cooke songs on commercials and movies, everywhere. Sam Cooke is forever young, died at the Jesus age of 33, forever young. His music is timeless. It's out there, y'all. Just go peep it. But yeah, he was born in Chicago, not born in Chicago, but Clarksdale, Mississippi. He was raised in Chicago, started out in gospel music, came a crossover success, right? A pioneer. Some people say he's the man who invented soul. He's the king of soul. Good friends with people like Ray Charles and Fats Domino. People with Fats Domino died last year. But Sam Cooke was a man on a mission. He was a man on a mission. He wanted to control his own destiny by controlling the talent that he possessed, his God-given talent. He wanted to share it with the world, but he wanted to get paid and compensated. But Sam Cooke was a man who was very much interested in creating generational wealth for his family. Very much so generational wealth for his family. He saw the big picture. L.C. Cooke, it's a documentary that was released by APCO, the company that owns the licensing and intellectual property of Sam Cooke. And we're going to get into that in this segment. Black History Misery. I said misery. Yeah, Black History Misery. But Black History Mysteries. But we're focusing on Sam Cooke. I think it's very timely due to what's going on with the Monique situation. And I just wanted to add some historical analysis to the fray. But once again, everybody y'all can support We All Be by donating, by buying art, and telling your friends. Spread the word about Brother Herd. And the music industry. The music industry always been mobbed up. Entertainment industry always had organized crime. Organized crime promoted jazz, right? Prohibition. Think about prohibition. Outlawing alcohol created opportunities for gangsters. Organized crime benefited from organized politics. The real organized crime is organized politics because they created the prohibition culture, which allowed these gangsters to get more powerful than they ever could by doing small time nickel and dime stuff. You got to think about the people who was involved in prohibition, like the Kennedys. Now they were allowed to legitimize their names, but make no mistake, Papa Joe Kennedy was a big bootlegger, was a big time drug dealer, because alcohol was the cocaine. Alcohol was the opium, the heroin of his time during prohibition. And Daddy Kennedy made a lot of money. He made generational wealth. He probably did a blood sacrifice. He basically blood sacrificed to his family for that wealth. Like Lucky Luciano said, one of his peers, behind every great wealth, there's a great crime. Joe Kennedy working with the East Coast, working with the Meyer Lanskys and the Frank Costellos, working with the Bronfman family, the people who created Seagrams, the Bronfman family, Canadian Jews. Then you got the Purple Gang, the Jewish gang up in Detroit, vicious killers, the Purple Gang. But working with the Bronfman family out of Canada, bringing down that quality Seagrams, that quality booze, and acting there's distribution. White folks know the money is in distribution. Whoever controls the distribution controls everything. That's the pipeline people. So Joe Kennedy not only made his money in that way, but by I'm surprised they ain't come up with Bitcoin back then. He was an ultimate insider when it came to Wall Street. He did a lot of inside trading. Now, a couple years ago, what's her name? White lady, Does that show with Snoop Dogg. Martha Stewart. Yeah, she went to jail for some petty stuff, right? But Joe Kennedy, man, he make her look like a nun. The stuff he was able to get away with when it was insider trading, he was able to sell his stocks and everything before the stock market crashed because he had the inside information. Like Baba Dick Gregory always used to say, information is power. And I say knowledge is the currency of the universe because knowledge and information is more powerful than a gun if used properly. It's leverage. J. Edgar Hoover created the FBI through controlling information by having the knowledge, by having the drop on people. That's why he was able to operate for almost 50 years because he had the knowledge, the information on the people that he was, blackmailing to stand into power. So I say all this to say, yeah, organized crime was heavily involved in the entertainment industry from day one. Yeah, Joe Kennedy. Let me say about Joe Kennedy. Finish up. Joe Kennedy also was an early Hollywood producer. It wasn't just Jews. You had the Irishman, Joe Kennedy from Boston, the Brahmin, from Harvard University. He was in Hollywood making money. He was born in Gloria Swanson. Yeah, Joe Kennedy was born in Gloria Swanson, one of the biggest movie starlets of her time, one of the biggest Hollywood movie stars of her generation, Gloria Swanson. Did you wonder why? Is there any wonder why his sons will be born in Marilyn Monroe? A generation later, one of the biggest Hollywood starlets of all time. His sons followed his lead. So they actually had to pay for the sins of the father. And I can talk about that because what people don't really talk about a lot of times was when the Kennedys were marked for death. Robert, especially John Kennedy, they got in because they daddy connections. But Joe Kennedy had, I believe, a stroke or a heart attack 6 months into the presidency of John Kennedy, his son. So 6 months into the White House, his daddy suffered something, I think it was a stroke that caused him to become incapacitated to a certain degree. Like he had his mental faculties, but his physical body was his prison. So he wasn't able to save his sons because when he was healthy and robust and whatnot, he was able to kind of like, hold up, boy. He had a leash on his sons. He had a leash on them. But once he got that health crisis, what happened with history? We see what happened in 63 and 68. And really after this stuff with Lake Chappaquiddick, they're making a movie about it, or movies coming out about Lake Chappaquiddick with Ted Kennedy, that girl, Mary Jo Kopechne, drowning in his car, and he waiting 8 hours to report her in the car. That really killed him. So he lived long enough to see his family go through all those horrible tragedies because his eldest son supposed to have been the president of the family because Joe Kennedy wanted to be president, but he picked the wrong side during World War II when he was ambassador of England. He wanted the United States to stay neutral in the war and not interfere with Germany marching through Europe. So that cost him any legitimate chance of becoming president of the United States. So that fell upon his eldest son, who died in World War II as a pilot. He got blown up. And I'm just getting all over the place. But like I said, organized crime always controlled the entertainment industry. You go to Chicago, Al Capone owned much of the clubs. Skeleton on Louis Armstrong and then played in. The mob, the outfit, controlled most of those clubs. You had jazz playing at the speakeasies where they were selling booze illegally, right? So jazz was like an outlaw music for an outlaw culture, for the outsiders, for the people who didn't fit in. Jazz was their soundtrack. So the gangsters got into the business. Al Capone, like I said, he controlled most of the clubs in Chicago. Al Capone's favorite band leader at the time was a cat named Walter Barnes, who was from Vicksburg, Mississippi. Walter Barnes, a brother. That was Al Capone's favorite band leader. Al Capone was known as Snorky. They used to call him Snorky. And they said Al Capone could dance his ass off. He was a phenomenal dancer. I don't know if he do all that Harlem Shake and stuff like that. They said Al Capone was getting down back in his time. So he loved the jazz musicians and their music. And so he was like a patron saint, of the jazz musician, of the black jazz musician. But his favorite band leader was a guy named Walter Barnes, who used to play at the Cotton Club in Cicero, Illinois. Illinois, Cicero, outside of Chicago. He used to play at the Cotton Club for Al Capone. And Cicero is the place where Dr. King had that brick thrown at his head. Not just in Chicago, but Cicero, Illinois was the stronghold for the mob. That was like the outfit, the Chicago mob's headquarters. Now, the Chicago mob is interesting because it's not like the traditional mafia. Like you said, the Five Founders of New York, because Al Capone, folks from Naples. He wasn't Sicilian. He was Neapolitan. So it was like little, but also in his group, he had all types of people that was involved. They were made men in his gang, that outfit. Not just Italians, but also you had Irish, Welsh. You had a Japanese American who was a part of the outfit. Y'all could Google that up. It was a Japanese American guy who was in the outfit for decades. I can't make this up. So the outfit was different from the traditional, what you consider the mafia. But anyhow, Walter Barnes was one of the founding fathers of the Chitlin Circuit. When Al Capone went to jail for income tax evasion, the patron saint was gone. And, you know, you had the Great Depression, and they're trying to figure out ways how to make money. So he became a columnist for the Chicago Defender, the black-owned paper founded by Robert S. Abbott at the table of his landlord. He founded the Chicago Defender back in 1905, Robert Abbott. So Walter Barnes became a columnist for his paper, and he ended up traveling on the road. So he started letting black folks know places where they could go to hear some great music or get entertained around the country, and also places where they could stay, because this is during the Jim Crow era. So there's a lot of places where black folks, you had sundown towns. Y'all look up sundown towns. These were places where black folks could not be out in dark. After it was 6 o'clock and the sun went down, your black ass better be at home at somebody's house. You better not be on the streets. As a matter of fact, the St. Louis Blues, the famous and popular composition by W.C. Handy, the father of the blues. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me slow down. W.C. Handy, the father of the blues. St. Louis Blues was about sundown towns. Listen to the song lyrics when it first opened. I hate to see when that sun goes down. It's talking about sundown towns. So you had places where black folks could not use the restrooms, could not eat in the restaurants. So Walter Barnes started hitting the road. His band, his orchestra started hitting the road. And that's how the Chitlin Circuit was born, because of him going around different places. Like when it's cold in Chicago, he hit the road, worked his way all the way down to Florida, then came back up in the springtime to Chicago. But he make all these stops in places, far away places that people might not ever heard of. Some of the most popular places, for example, for black musicians and entertainers was West Virginia. You don't think about black folks when you think about West Virginia. You think about coal miners, about white people in the Appalachians. One of the most profitable places to go to was West Virginia, but you would not have known that if it was for people like Walter Barnes, who wrote for the Chicago Defender, one of the very, very popular paper in the black community at that time, because you didn't have no Jet magazine, no Essence, or no Radio One. You had the Chicago Defender. And, you know, Robert Abbott was a brilliant businessman and visionary. He was able to use Pullman porters. These were black men who worked on the train to be his distribution for his papers. So, you know, like, you know, word of mouth and all this stuff. But anywho, Walter Barnes ended up dying in a very tragic and infamous way. Walter Barnes, on April 23rd, 1940, Walter Barnes did a gig at a place called the Rhythm Club down in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez, Mississippi, y'all. Look it up. The Rhythm Club fire of 1940. The Rhythm Club fire of 1940, April 23rd, 1940, is considered one of the worst building fires in American history. I still believe it's in the top 10 for American fires in American history. Look up the Rhythm Club fire. So you basically had a situation where this group called the Money Waster Club or Money Waster Society, they sponsored a gig and they hired a band. So Walter Barnes actually was not supposed to be there, but he was a replacement for somebody at the last minute for this cat who had got a gig at the Apollo Theater. And Walter Barnes was working his way back to Chicago from Florida for the spring. So he decided to take the gig at the last moment. So him and his band performed. And the club was decorated with Spanish moss. Look up Spanish moss. It's a type of decoration. And allegedly the Spanish moss was sprayed with insecticide to keep the bugs off. So you only had one way in and one way out because the people that organized the event, they want people to try to sneak in through a back way, and they had the windows shut, so they want to peek into the club, even though you could hear the music. I mean, well, that's another story. But anyway, somehow, basically, legend has it that a person lit a cigarette, and somehow the cigarette, when it was lit, made the Spanish moss catch on fire. Somebody lit a cigarette. Something, that's the story. I don't know. Somebody could, you'll never know. But anyway, the fire, it was hundreds of people in the building, only one way out. Hundreds of people in the building, only one way out. And people started panicking. A lot of people got stumped or trampled on. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, when it got the fire under control, a lot of folks died from being suffocated and trampled upon, stampeded upon. Not burned up, but a lot of people did get burned up now. It was hundreds of people in that building. But a lot of people died from suffocation from being trampled upon. You had a lot of people build up trying to get into that one doorway, one way out. And I talked to a survivor of the Rhythm Club fire of 1940. And the reason why she was able to escape was because her date knocked out a hole in the window and threw her out the window and threw himself out the window. So luckily she was able to survive, and her date was able to survive. But a lot of her friends, her high school friends, these were black people from 18 to 30 years old. She had several hundred black folks killed one night, ages 18 to 30 years old. That's a generation basically of black folks that were wiped out because of the Rhythm Club fire of 1940. And Walter Barnes, unfortunately for him and his band, they were stuck all the way in the back of the club. So they couldn't get out, and they knew they were dead man anyway. So they did like what the dudes did on Titanic. They kept on playing to try to keep people calm. And the last thing that people say they heard from the band was a guy, this trumpet player named Paul Stott. And he had the misfortune. Paul Stott was with the circus, but he left the circus and was trying to work his way back to Indianapolis with the Walter Barnes band. So he had the misfortune of being stuck with this doomed band. So Paul Stott played a high note, and they said the roof collapsed onto the stage and killed everybody. So nobody survived except for, I guess, one or two people from the band. But y'all can look all that up. I did research into that. I interviewed a woman who survived that night. She's in her 90s, almost 100 years old now. Interviewed some people that live down there, but it's sad. And a lot of blues and jazz songs were made about the Rhythm Club fire of 1940. People like not Muddy Waters, but Howlin' Wolf even made a song, or he sung a recording about the Rhythm Club fire of 1940. And Walter Barnes became a folk hero. He had his funeral in Chicago. About 8,000 people showed up for that. Like I said, he was Al Capone's favorite band leader, Walter Barnes. And I did a picture of that night that's available as a print, the artwork. But you can look at my We All Be TV channel. Did a couple of interviews with people about the Rhythm Club fire 1940. That's on We All Be TV. That's why it's so important to support this platform. So I want to encourage everybody, if you have benefited from what we do on We All Be TV, to donate to We All Be movement, super chat. I'm not reading the chats right now. I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to get this information. So much stuff going on. Like I said, I felt the spirit moving me to start doing my show again. But really, I have not really been doing a lot of live stuff over these last several years. But something telling me there's a need for what I'm trying to offer the people. But Walter Barnes, another black, y'all didn't know about Walter Barnes probably, but look him up. Take a look. It's all online. And I created content for the Rhythm Club fire and about Walter Barnes. And it's a good book to read by this white guy from Memphis. He's originally from Virginia. I know him. I interviewed him. His name is Preston Lauterbach. He wrote a book about the Chitlin Circuit recently in the last 7 years or so. It's a pretty good read. He wrote a book about the Chitlin Circuit. He talks about Walter Barnes and Jimmy Lunceford and all that stuff. So it might be something of interest to look at or read on your Kindle and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think, something just hit me. The spirit hit me today. That's how God works. And yeah, the roof was truly on fire. That's no joke. The roof was truly on fire. It's not funny. It's not a ha-ha funny, but man, black folks went through so much stuff in this country. It's ridiculous. And we do ourselves a disservice. I want to shout out the Czech Republic once again for honoring Second Lieutenant Albert Young yesterday. They did a program to honor Dr. Albert Lewis Young. They actually created a monument. And here's the beauty about that gesture. They had a monument already for Second Lieutenant Albert Lewis Young. And he had his name misspelled on the monument. And it said, to hell with that. We're going to take it down and make sure he has his name spelled properly on that monument. So he died January 21st, 1945 in the Czech Republic. His plane went down. His parachute failed to open. He was just 23 years young. Tuskegee Airman, the only U.S. black pilot to die in the Czech Republic during World War II. So they thought of enough of him and his sacrifice to honor him with a beautiful monument. And he's from Memphis. So I've been doing my job with the We All Be platform to educate people about Albert Young. Because I didn't know who he was until a week ago, who this Albert Young cat was until a week ago. And I want to give a shout out to Lyndon Comstock, a phenomenal researcher on the left coast, and also my mom, Sister Callie Hurd, very focused, and they have dug up so much information on this guy that, you know, by the end of the day, he's going to have a bigger print on the internet because of the content we're producing and the things we're doing. So I'm just grateful that the Most High, that the universal God has put me in this position, or I have accepted the assignment to be in this position to help bring awareness to the righteous ancestors. So when you support We All Be, you're supporting that, those things, those initiatives. But, you know, I just think it's very important. Can I talk about Brother Steve Coakley? I mentioned Brother Steve Coakley. He's a great ancestor, a great researcher, but, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there on Brother Steve Coakley. There's a lot of stuff he can say in his own words. Is what it does when you are prepared, when you're a soldier on the front lines. You prepare for your afterlife. I ain't talking about you going to heaven. I'm talking about the work that you left behind, the legacy. The legacy is the people that you inspired by your example, by your work, your God work. I think a lot of times what's wrong with us is that we get too caught up in the messenger. And 2018 is the year that you try to, or you got to learn. You don't have to try. You're going to have to learn how to discern the message from the messenger. Because it's not important who the messenger is. It's more important. The most important thing is the substance of the message. And we're going to have to depart from the old way of thinking about leadership, about the people that we respect and admire. There's a lot of cats I respect, but I would not follow in their personal habits and stuff like that. Because a lot of times you're going to get disappointed if you do. And it's most important with Brother Steve Coakley, the most important thing he did was become a thought provocateur, where he put out information that fuck with your cognitions, like, you know, the cognitive dissonance. That's him and Dick Gregory. Because, like, it's funny when I review things that people say about the interviews I did with Dick Gregory, they always say, well, why you don't tell him that he's wrong, or you don't tell him that he got that wrong? I said, it's not my job to do that. I'm interviewing him. I'm not, you know, trying to control what he's saying. I have a platform that is all about getting another person's point of view. And I hear people when they say certain things, I'm not always in agreement. Not even with Dick Gregory on a lot of things he say. But what I say about Dick Gregory, what was beautiful about him is that he might not get you to the right house, but he gets you in the right neighborhood and the right zip code. And really it's up to you to do the work. Because a lot of times you're not going to appreciate when somebody tell you something that's actual factual. Y'all, you know, we take it for granted. You know, when somebody give y'all something that's wealthy, that's full of rich information, if somebody gave it to y'all free, y'all don't respect it. Y'all don't respect the information. But if you are forced to pay for it in some type of way, then you respect it more. You respect yourself more. It's like martyrs are always paying the cost of admission for everybody else to be carefree. And we don't need no more martyrs. We don't deserve them. We don't deserve another Malcolm. We don't deserve no Martins. We don't need no Megas. We need folks to get out their asses and get their skin in the game. Stop now, applauding from the sideline. Stop being a fan. Be a team. It's funny when I look at football, and football is a joke to me. It's very hilarious because it's wrestling. It's just like a movie. It's a drama. This is us. This is us. It's NFL. Like it's not real. Y'all think the shit is real. It's drama. It's bread and circuses. But here's the thing: you look on your social media timeline. We lost. We won. We going to Super Bowl. Negro, you can't even go to the corner from your house to the store. You ain't have enough gas to make it to the store around the corner. You talking about we going to the Super Bowl? We ain't doing nothing, because the thing about it is that even the cats that lose in the professional game, even the losers in the Super Bowl are the winners. They still getting paid. Are you getting paid off of what we won? Tom Brady is your teammate. You sure about that? I'm not making fun of people, but I used to be like that. And then I got a wake-up call. It's like that movie A Bronx Tale. Like the dude told Mickey, man, I don't care about you in your light bill or you having a place to stay. You know what I'm saying? Your daddy should be your hero. Your mama should be your shiro. That should be your role model. But sometimes we have fuck up parents. Everybody who can help a kid don't mean they should help, can be parents or should have kids, but that's another story. But now, Steve Coker has stuff out there already on him. I didn't know Steve Coker like that. I respect his work. I respect the sacrifices that he made, but it's not for me to tell his story. He got kids. I think he got a son out in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm saying we're gonna have to stop growing. Gotta stop being grown. This shit, and stuff and talking about STDs and shit. It don't make a difference, man, because we dying out here, man. Y'all think it's a joke, man. It's not a joke, man. Your life is on the line, but your life is in your hands. You got responsibility, because even with Sam Cooke, the way he died, you know what I'm saying? He died in a seedy motel in the hood. And, this man came up in the church. This man came from a church family. His daddy was a preacher man. Man was a hero to many people. But yet the way he died, man. That's why you talk about folks about like Sam Cooke. Like Dick used to say, it's not how you live, it's like how you died. Did not die like that in August of 55. Will we be talking about Emmett Till today? As great as Dr. King is, will he be talked about today if he didn't die like he died on April 4th, 1968? Same thing with Malcolm. Will we be criticizing Malcolm for being Detroit Red? Imagine if Malcolm X was in his prime now, during the age of social media, right? Imagine that. Imagine if he was in his prime now, right? People say, man, that man you be Detroit Red. That nigga was running hoes. Nigga did cocaine. I used to do blower with Malcolm, with Detroit Red. That nigga is a fraud. Y'all talking about, y'all be tripping. Y'all be reading people comments. Well, so-and-so can't pass the Dr. King and Malcolm X character test. Y'all be giving Malcolm hell he was alive. Man, nigga, you always Detroit Red to me, nigga. You ain't no better than me, nothing but a goddamn pimp. Y'all be saying that about Malcolm. Dr. King, nothing but a hoe. Y'all be saying that about King, man. Running train, running holes in the house. There's some holes. Yeah, mega church. I'm just saying, I respect people that put their lives, that put their livelihoods on the line for what they want. I don't give a damn how they live if they ain't affected me. It's not my call, man. It's like, I will rather for you, if you're going to model yourself out behind a Charlie Parker, don't copy the Charlie Parker that did heroin and drugs and all that shit. Be the Charlie Parker that practiced 11 to 15 hours a day on his horn, on his saxophone for 4 years. Be that Charlie Parker. See, if you look at anybody's life in its entirety, it's fucked up. Sam Cooke. Another singer I liked, Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack was Sam Cooke's protege. When Sam Cooke died, Bobby Womack started boning Sam Cooke's wife, Barbara. He married Barbara Cooke February of 1965. Sam Cooke was killed December 11, 1964. But Bobby Womack married his widow February 1965. That's not a long window, but that's not unusual though. It sounds shady, it sounds questionable, but it's not unusual. A case in point, Frank Sinatra was real close to Humphrey Bogart. Oh, Humphrey Bogart, Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart, Bogey. When Humphrey Bogart died, he got close to Humphrey Bogart's widow, legendary screen actress Lauren Bacall. Frank Sinatra was going to marry Lauren Bacall, but called it off. So it's not unusual, but it's kind of weird. But what makes it weirder, Bobby Womack was 21, and she was 10 years older than him. She was about a decade older than Bobby Womack, 21, 30, 31. Okay, interesting. And on top of that, Bobby Womack ended up sleeping with her daughter. Bobby Womack had an affair with Sam Cooke's oldest daughter, Linda Cooke. She go by another name now, but he had an affair with her. And Barbara Cooke shot at his ass, I believe, supposedly. No, when she found out, she was mad because they allegedly had this affair when Linda was 18. And Linda ended up marrying Bobby Womack's one of his brothers named Cecil. Cecil Womack, who was very talented. Because Bobby Womack and Cecil was in the group, the Valentinos, with their brother Harry, who was killed by his girlfriend with a steak knife in Bobby Womack's house back in the 70s, because she thought that an undergarment that she found in Bobby Womack's house belonged to Harry Womack's side chick, and it was not true. Come to find out that, it was Bobby Womack's girlfriend's undergarment. So Bobby Womack went through a lot of hell in his life. I can't make this shit up, man. Like Sam Cooke, like he was doomed, man. It's like Sam Cooke was doomed. I don't know. Brilliant as he was, his first wife was a dancer. She was beautiful. His first wife had a son from a previous relationship, but he married her in the 50s. She ended up dying in a one-person car crash. He paid for the funeral, but look her up. She died in a one-person car crash. Sam Cooke was in Arkansas, traveling on the road with his buddies, with his music partners. Lou Rawls was very close to Sam Cooke. And they had a car accident in Arkansas that decapitated the head of the driver of their car. And they thought Sam Cooke and Lou Rawls were going to die. I think Sam Cooke had to be airlifted to the hospital in Memphis. And luckily he survived some type of way. But Sam Cooke went through a lot of shit. But then you look at the aftermath of what happened with his family, with his wife marrying his protege, and his protege ended up screwing his daughter. Allegedly, this is all the information out there. And then his daughter ended up marrying her stepfather's brother. So he was her stepfather and her brother-in-law. Crazy. But you start looking at, damn, that's messy shit. Let me just stick to the greatest hits album. You don't want to be like Bobby Womack. No disrespect to the ancestor, no disrespect to a lot of, but you want to be yourself. Appreciate their talent. If their songs made you happy, if it comforted you when you were sad, if it gave you hope when you was hopeless, get with that. I would not advise anybody to be like anybody. Just be who you're supposed to be. That's why all the confusion is. You get disappointed when your hero is not who you thought they were going to be. You know what I'm saying? Because they just human beings, and no human being should be put on a pedestal. Once again, as much as I admire people and respect people, no human being should be put on a pedestal. None. Because you will always be disappointed because they're human beings. That's the way it is. John Doe said, the music industry killed Sam Cooke that night. The lady working at the hotel was on the payroll of the music industry. Well, the system killed Sam Cooke because the system has a problem for a black man who is self-determined, who want to control his own destiny. I mean, a black man, Sam Cooke protected his balls. He was about swinging those balls, and he protected his balls. He was proud. He was confident, intelligent. One of his best friends was Ray Charles, and Ray Charles was an expert businessman. Ray Charles owned his masters, controlled his masters. And I love they showed in the movie Ray how great and shrewd of a businessman he was. Because my thing, I'm like Ray, I said, look, man, I'm black, I'm blind. How the fuck you gonna screw me over when I'm black and blind? Nigga, I'm black and blind. You can't do shit to me. Give me my money. No, Ray Charles, Steve Wonder, them kids can tell the difference between a nickel, dime, and quarter. You can't cheat them guys. Yeah, you got folks that are 20/20 vision and always being made a fool of when it comes to business. What's the problem with that? You got cats that's blind. They can see better than a lot of us when it comes to our business affairs. That's a damn shame. But you know, Ray Charles and Sam Cooke were close friends. Sam Cooke wanted a lot of his black artist friends to work with him as business people to control their masters and publishing and distribution. A lot of them didn't believe it. I remember Lloyd Price, the great Lloyd Price, the R&B great from Louisiana, from New Orleans, who was best friends at one point with Don King. He relayed a story about Sam Cooke talking to Fats Dominoes in a barbershop in L.A. And he told, Sam Cooke told Fats Domino what he wanted to do in terms of his business. Like he wanted to control his masters and publishing, and he wanted to start a record company where black musicians control their music. And Fats Dominoes basically said something to the Fed, nigga, these white folks been good to me, man. And before y'all start calling people coons and stuff, shit, a lot of us think like that. Oh, these folks been good to me. Man, I've been a company man for 40 years. Mr. Charlie been good. Y'all just don't appreciate. Y'all, we always defend them. We do. We always defend the people that don't have our backs. We always work the hardest for other people's dreams. You don't work hard for your dreams. You know, Henry Ford made sure that them black folks could buy his cars. He put up the work and it manifested the Ford Motor Company. You know, we worked and manifest America. We're our vision for what we want to do with our energy to sustain our people for generations. That was Sam Cooke was coming at. Well, I'm gonna use my black gifts to empower white power. I want to empower myself. I want to create generational wealth for my people like the white folks do. Sam Cooke used to be a consummate reader. That boy was constantly reading books. Around the time he died, he was reading books about the Third Reich. Man was a brilliant dude, a voracious appetite for knowledge, all about empowering his people, proud black man, unapologetically proud black man. He was there at that fight with Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X when Muhammad Ali defeated Sonny Liston in Miami. He was there. There's footage of Sam Cooke happy and excited for the success of his friend Cassius Clay. And it's interesting because Muhammad Ali did a couple of songs or a song or two on Sam Cooke's record label, SARS. It's SARS, SARS record label, the one that Sam Cooke founded and owned, SARS. You can listen to that stuff on YouTube. Some of the songs that Muhammad Ali did with Sam Cooke or recorded on Sam Cooke label. And Muhammad Ali was one of the most prominent voices to question what happened to Sam Cooke. They had press conferences with Muhammad Ali questioning the coroner's inquest. He wanted it to be investigated. Yeah, people like Etta James at last. She said in her autobiography, you can look this up, and according to her, that it like Sam Cooke was almost decapitated. His head was almost disconnected from his body. And they're saying that it was a woman, the hotel manager, who did the Sam. There was her using a broom and a gun that did this to Sam. I mean, look at the picture taken by Ernest Withers. That's the civil rights photographer. The people suspect of being an FBI informant. He took a picture of Sam Cooke in his coffin with the glass on top. And you look at his fingers, it's all mangled. Look at his face, all bruised up and stuff. They got makeup on it, but you can tell it's all bruised up with a big knot on his head. So you tell me that this black woman did all this by herself to Sam Cooke? You telling me, you know, we got this Me Too stuff going on? Sam Cooke was a heartthrob, man. Sam Cooke stayed getting laid. He stayed having babies. Sam Cooke had babies all over the place, man. But it's not I'm not trying to talk about the man, but I'm saying the man had women all over the place. He had babies all over the place, supposedly. He didn't need to rape nobody to get some. Sam Cooke didn't need that. Sam Cooke had women try to get with him. They were trying to rape him. I'm just saying. But the lady who was known as a prostitute, Elisa Boyer, just look her up on the internet. Elisa Boyer, that's the woman he went to the hotel, the Motel Hacienda with. They was hanging out that night. They went to the Motel Hacienda, and the rest is kind of murky after that. But allegedly, from my understanding, Sam accused the woman of stealing his money and clothes. Like if you look at the picture of Sam dead, he's on the floor, basically buck naked with just his socks on and his trench coat. I mean, buck naked. I mean, this is like you just don't want to think about Sam Cooke. You know, when you think about the greatness of Sam Cooke, you don't want that to be some of the last stained moments of your thoughts about Sam Cooke. But they allegedly that the woman stole his clothes and stuff like that, and he felt that the hotel manager was in on the whole escapade, and so allegedly he was attacking the hotel manager action where the lady at and all this stuff, and then the woman called herself. She allegedly had the hotel owner on the phone with her, and the hotel owner said she heard all the things that were going on. So the lady, I guess in self-defense, shot Sam Cooke supposedly. And then he said, "Lady, you shot me." And then he died. That's what they say. They didn't say it like that, but I'm just wrapping it up a little bit. But the thing about it is that, like I said, his body was bruised. Look at his fingers. You can look at his face in some of the pictures of the photos of him in his casket. The bump on his head, very pronounced bump on his head. And with Etta James saying that like his neck was about to, like his head was almost decapitated from his neck, like some Nicole Brown Simpson stuff. That's cut his neck. I mean, they, you know, like I said, the music industry, the entertainment industry always dealt with organized crime in this country. I mentioned the Bronfman family earlier, right? The Bronfman family, the Canadian Jews, founders of Seagram's, the liquor y'all love. They actually got into the entertainment business. They brought Universal Vivendi. One of them even has had the one that the heirs of the Bronfman family was married to a black woman from New Orleans. So he got a biracial child, and this one of his children ended up having a child with the rapper MIA. You know, the one that did that song, Paper Planes, whatever, that came out 10 years ago. She did that hook with T.I. and Kanye and Jay-Z, swagger like us, swagger like us, MIA. She had a child with one of the heirs of the Bronfman legacy, of the Bronfman dynasty. And they got into entertainment. You can look all this stuff up, but look at the Motown. Barry Gordy always had to deal with that rumor and that innuendo of the mob controlling Motown. And I talk to insiders, and they tell you stuff. I've been blessed enough to be able to talk to people in the industry who did things behind the scenes, and they told me stories. Because what you call the official story is the official lie. Like my Jegna, Mr. Emerson Abel Jr., who was the high school teacher or band director of Isaac Hayes at Manassas High School, he ended up working for Isaac Hayes at Stax, part of the Isaac Hayes movement, did Watt Stax, a brilliant band director, co-founder of the Southern Heritage Classic. It was actually founded in his home. And he passed away 2 years ago, but he told me, Ron, nobody dies a natural death in show business. I want y'all to think about that. He said, Ron, nobody dies a natural death in show business. Because he told me some stories. He used to work for Sammy Davis Jr. As a matter of fact, Sammy Davis Jr. gave him a belt one time, some type of expensive belt. And he said he wore that belt one time, got hit by a car, he threw that shit away. Bad luck. But he told me an interesting story about how Sammy Davis Jr. eye really got knocked out. And I might share that, I might not. But you had Denise LaSalle, the famous blues singer. She died recently, rest in peace. But she was caught up in some suspicious stuff. Suspicious minds, the Elvis song. But anyway, what I'm talking about is Al Jackson Jr., the death of Al Jackson Jr. of Stax Records, of Booker T and the MGs. He was the drummer of Booker T and the MGs, right? Y'all heard of Al Jackson Jr.? If you have never heard of Al Jackson Jr., you heard of Booker T and the MGs. So he was the drummer on all their greatest hits. Everything you think about, Green Onions, all that stuff. He was the drummer on that. He died under questionable circumstances in his home. Allegedly, he was a victim of a home invasion. Him and his wife was tied up by some intruders. His wife survived, but he was shot several times. And Al Jackson, that's questionable because there's a lot of things about that stuff to this day, they don't look right. They don't. It's unsolved officially. But a lot of the old timers, they told me stuff off the record about what went on, and allegedly, Denise LaSalle's ex-boyfriend was a suspect in the killing of Al Jackson Jr. And he ended up dying in a police or FBI shootout up in the Pacific Northwest. He died in the shootout with the FBI, I believe, in Seattle. I was back in the 70s, but Al Jackson, allegedly, he put some kind of flight, depending on who you talk to, your sources. Go online and look up the Al Jackson Jr. murder. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff you need to know. Because people say, well, Brother Ron, you got this. I mean, I'm just trying to put something on y'all mind to marinate. He allegedly went to see, I believe, the Ali fight. They had a setup at the Coliseum where it's like kind of like they go, I guess like a pay-per-view type of thing where you can see the fight broadcast live, but the fight wasn't in Memphis, but it was somewhere else. But I don't know, it was the fight in Manila or what, but he supposed to went to either Detroit or Chicago for a recording session with a musician. I can't think of the musician's name at the time, but allegedly he ended up going home, was a victim of a home invasion. But before that, he got into a domestic dispute with his wife. I think her name is Barbara, like Sam Cooke's wife. I don't know what that means. Don't quote me. I forgot the name. His wife is still alive. And I think she actually still lives in the house where he was killed. And that happened so many years ago. But he got into a domestic dispute with his wife, and she shot him point blank range. I want to say it was point blank range in the chest with his gun. He did not press charges though, or the charges was dropped. He said it was it was an accident, something like it was weird, man. It's strange. Just look that case up. It's something what the hell? But somehow the charges got dismissed, whatever. But they did go to court for it, and I believe he took responsibility and for her shooting him because she was afraid or she feared her life or something. But anyhow, then not long after that, he's dead. And we're dealing with this Lorenzen Wright thing, the basketball player. All this stuff is happening in Memphis. We're dealing with the Lorenzen Wright case where his ex-wife has been extradited back to Memphis from California recently. And I have some surprise information for you all in a upcoming episode of We All Be TV. I might have a surprise guest that will talk about some things concerning Lorenzen Wright case that's not being talked about right now. So I have some insider information, hopefully, to share with you all in this upcoming week. But yeah, Al Jackson died under suspicious circumstances. And to this day, his family is kind of messed up over it. They not kind of, y'all messed up over it. And a lot of suspicion is, allegedly, a lot of people feel that his wife had something to do with him getting killed because she was not hurt. When he got shot in his home, she was not hurt. Allegedly, she was able to untie herself and call the police. And there's a lot of stuff, funny business around that. It's the same thing with Al Green and the lady who threw grits on him and committed suicide in his home. His friend. They were friends. She was an airline stewardess, and she threw hot grits on Al Green and she killed herself, allegedly. I don't know. I'm not laughing, but I'm saying Black History of Mysteries. This is why I titled Black History of Mysteries and Other Unexplainables. Just like with Teddy Pendergrass getting caught with the transsexual in his car when he got paralyzed. But there's another story. I mean, there's so much stuff. Eddie Murphy at that time, but I don't want to get into all of that. But see how much this rabbit hole you go down? People that you admire and respect in their professional lives that made you happy with their talents, we should give them the benefit of the doubt, right? It should always be about us judging people on their personality and their personal habits. Who is perfect? But like the way Sam Cooke died. It's unfortunate he died that way, but you go to Otis Redding. Right? Why was Otis Redding killed? They never really officially said how his plane went down in Wisconsin. They never came out with something that was like, yeah, this is exactly how it went down. Well, I want people to understand about Otis Redding. But at the time he died, he was in control of his destiny. He owned his publishing. Otis Redding was a brilliant artist, but also a brilliant businessman. By the time he died, he owned a 300-acre farm town of Memphis. had his own cars. He was doing his thing. He controlled his publishing. I think the last full year of his life, he made $1 million before taxes. As far as being an entertainer, he was making money and he controlled his destiny. But Otis Redding, see, I know old timers that work with him in Stacks and stuff like. They tell me things. And Otis Redding, allegedly, I have yet to find it, he called a press conference before he died to let people know that black folks was going to control their own music in the music industry from now on. And he was setting the example. He started putting it in his fellow performers' ears that, look, stop taking that flat fee and start clicking your royalties. Stop I don't understand Otis Redding. He was a brilliant songwriter. He's very popular. Aretha Franklin, I respect, but Otis Redding actually did his own version and he wrote that song. So his estate still get paid out. They get paid money off of respect. He wrote a lot of songs, Sit on the Dock of the Bay. He wrote songs. But by him announcing to the world that, look, want to control their music from now on, black music will be dictated by black people. That was a wrap for him. That was a wrap. So his airplane goes down. And what I didn't know until recently, like a couple years ago, Jet Magazine got photos of his body. Check out those photos. I'm very macabre. I'm into like looking up people's death photos, pictures of people in caskets at funerals. I'm just weird like that. I like to go to cemeteries, to stuff like that. But photos of him getting pulled out that lake. This man is frozen in his seat, looking like he's sleeping. It ain't like he's dead, but they got him in his seat. I don't know if he died and he was asleep when he died, but he looks peaceful. And they got him like on his. I mean, it's weird because even at the morgue, he's so frozen in his seat. They got him positioned a certain way. He was just 26 years old when he died. It was 2 airplanes that night, but the airplane he owned went down. Nobody survived except for one person. That was Ben Colley, one of the original members of the Barcades. It was another Barcade who was driving a rental car back to Cleveland, from my understanding. So you had 2 airplanes, but the plane that Otis Redding was on were no survivors except for Ben Colley, who couldn't swim. Ben Colley was the only person that survived that plane crash with Otis Redding, and he could not even swim. He was a trumpet player in the Barcades. He died maybe like the last 2 or 3 years. I went to his funeral. Very packed with all Memphis music royalty. But yeah, he was the only person that survived that crash. Ben Colley was the only person. He couldn't even swim. So that's kind of like, it's never been explained why Otis Redding plane went down. But if you start looking at what he was doing professionally and what his vision was, just like, you can look this up. It's online. Take a look. It's all online. And talk about interesting stuff. Sam Cooke thought Sam Cooke is interesting because people say he owned his publishing and all this stuff. Well, it's complicated. Did he own his publishing outright? Did he own parts of his publishing and royalties? He got royalties. He owned part of his publishing, but he didn't own the whole thing. He had a business partner. Look up of Alan Klein. That was his business partner. Alan Klein was a Jewish lawyer from New Jersey, I believe. He passed away in 2009, but he was Sam Cooke's business partner. He helped negotiate his deals with RCA. And I just want to read something real quick about that partnership. You can find all this stuff online, Wikipedia, all types of sources, not just Wikipedia. But I want to read something about his association with Alan Klein, the lawyer that helped him negotiate his deals with RCA, which was revolutionary and innovative at the time. In 1963, Alan Klein began a business partnership with Jocko Henderson, an urban black disc jockey who had daily who had daily radio shows in both Philadelphia and New York. Henderson hosted lavish, profitable live rhythm and blues shows at the Apollo Theater in Harlem and formed a partnership with Klein to begin doing the same in Philadelphia. As Henderson's partner, Klein was introduced to Sam Cooke, a preeminent talent, equally adept at writing, producing, and performing his numerous hit records. Cooke has scored 4 top 10 hits in 1963, including his #1 hit, You Send Me, among 33 records in the top 100 in that period. Wow, that's amazing. Although Cooke was clearly making his label RC a great deal of money, label executives nonetheless wouldn't honor his many requests for a review of his accounts. Sound familiar? Remember that time on Death Row when Tupac kept on asking like how much money he was making, where his money at? This is an industry standard thing. Klein forced the reluctant label to open its books for a thorough audit. Shortly afterward, RCA agreed to renegotiate Cooke's contract. Interesting. Klein secured for his client a genuinely groundbreaking deal. Klein created a holding company, Tracy Limited. Remember what I just... Klein created a holding company, Tracy Limited, which was owned by Klein and named after one of Cooke's daughters. Let me repeat that line, y'all. Tim Cooke owned his own stuff. A really groundbreaking deal. Klein created a holding company, Tracy Limited, which was owned by Klein and named after one of Cooke's daughters. Tracy will manufacture Cooke's recordings and give exclusive rights to RCA to sell them for 30 years. After which the rights will revert to Tracy. Not Sam Cooke's daughter, but Sam Cooke's so-called business partner, Allen Klein. Damn. Cooke will receive a cash advance of $100,000 per year for 3 years, followed by $75,000 for each of 2 option years. Instead of being paid the first $100,000 in cash, Cooke was paid in Tracy preferred stock, which would be taxed only when he sold it. While the deal benefited Cooke, it also greatly benefited Klein, who ended up owning the rights to all of Cooke's recordings when Cooke was killed in Cooke's remaining rights declined. Once again, while the deal benefited Cooke, benefited Klein, who ended up owning the rights to all of Cooke's recordings when Cooke was killed in 1964, and his widow sold Cooke's remaining rights declined. Hope y'all understand where I'm coming from with this. Why that was so important to read that information. Information is power. Knowledge is the currency of the universe. Never forget that. I'm just showing you, man. It's a cold game, like Young Gotti said. It's a cold game. Cold game. You know, people forget, like, it's funny, I looked at this movie recently about Machine Gun Jack McGurn. That was Al Capone's right-hand man. He the one that allegedly architect the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And it was a movie that came out last December. And was I disappointed? I said, whatever, it is what it is. It's like, it's hard to make great gangster movies now. It's just different. The rhythm changed. It's hard to make a great gangster film. But the movie starred Mel Gibson's son as Al Capone, which is interesting. And it had Jamie, the sister, the woman that was Tony Soprano's daughter in The Sopranos. She was his love interest. Not his love interest, but the guy who plays Machine Gun Jack McGurn's love interest. And also had Jason Patrick in it. I didn't even know that Jason Patrick's maternal grandfather was Jackie Gleason until Saturday. Jason Patrick, Lost Boys, Speed 2. His grandfather is Jackie Gleason of the Honeymooners. And Jackie Gleason was an interesting kid too. But anyway, getting back, the movie wasn't that great. But the funny thing about the movie is that there were no presence of Jews. They talked about the Italians and the Irish, but the Jews was the one who organized crime. Al Capone's accountant was Greasy Thumb Jake Guzik. That was his accountant, his financier. Meyer Lansky, come on now. How you gonna have organized crime in the mob without the Jews? Las Vegas, Benjamin Siegel. Come on now, America's Most Wanted. Come on, think about it. Jews were all up in the mix. Arnold Rothstein, the guy who allegedly fixed the 1919 World Series, the guy who was the mentor to the mafia superstars like Lucky Luciano, Legs Diamond, Dutch Schultz. I mean, come on, Dutch Schultz, the beer baron of the Bronx, Murder Inc., Louis Lepke Buckhalter, the only mob boss to get the chair, went to Sing Sing, got the chair in 1944, March 1944, head of Murder Inc., king of the garment district in New York. Come on, man. So I'm saying, like it's not even authentic because you didn't represent no Jews in the mob. You don't even have no Jews in the monster movie. Come on, you look at Detroit, the Purple Gang, bunch of vicious Jewish killers, man. They control bootleg. Al Capone tried to take over Detroit. He had to deal with the Purple Gang. He went his ass back to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, I just think it's interesting. The whitewashing of things, the so-called, and also people talk about the Mandela effect, but that's a different story. But Alan Klein, just like Clive Davis came through the industry not as a musician, but as a lawyer, ended up getting, control of that pipeline. It's like it's funny, Clive Davis, I'm not getting off track. I don't care what I do, man, because I'm just speaking my mind. Clive Davis, what was fascinating about Clive Davis is this. Clive Davis was Whitney Houston's mentor. When she died at the Beverly Hills Hotel, I believe it was the Beverly Hills Hotel, he still had his Grammy party, which was downstairs. My understanding is they had to keep her naked body in a hotel room until the end of the Grammy party. I don't know if that's a rumor, but it's kind of like it's your prodigy is up there butt naked. This woman whose career you helped shape and mold, and you helped guide her, but yeah, she's dead, butt naked, almost like a sacrifice to your Grammy party. And like Shaka Khan, man, Shaka Khan has such a conscience, man. I mean, I respect all the time Shaka Khan came out in those days following the death of Whitney, because like people were mad at Bobby Brown, you destroyed Whitney. Shaka, you already doing stuff, child. I mean, Whitney's brother got a hook on shit. I'm just saying she made a choice to partake in that, but people will always try to blame Bobby Brown for all of Whitney's choices. But Whitney was already on that stuff before Bobby. Bobby was just smoking weed. Whitney turned him out if you want to look at it like that. But I'm not saying not to step. I'm saying I think it's fascinating that a lot of money that a lot of people that Clive Davis made money off of are dead. It was this infamous story about Clive Davis taking Janis Joplin to a room to negotiate a contract. Just him and Janis Joplin. He just like took her into a room, got what he wanted, and then next thing you know, Janis Joplin is dead at 27. Think about the people. I mean, I look at that, the bodies. Alan Klein messed over the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Alan Klein, he got through with Sam Cooke. After Sam Cooke was in the ground, Alan Klein was dealing with the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones. They got locked up in court battles for decades over intellectual property, all this stuff. Because what Alan Klein was doing is worth investigating. Alan Klein's business tactics. You would thought he was for the rights of the artist, but really he was for the right to enrich himself with the talents and the intellectual properties of the artist. And he had things set up where he found loopholes in the system to avoid paying large sums of taxes. But also what he was doing was that he was keeping the money away from the artist, if you look at what he was doing. And also he found a way to enrich himself in the process. Like he became the middleman, so to speak. But I'm not going to talk about all this in this podcast about Alan Klein. But I want y'all to know that Sam Cooke did not control what we thought he controlled. You know what I'm saying? This dude used Sam Cooke's daughter for a company that did not enrich Sam Cooke's family. And I think Sam Cooke kind of figured this stuff out. But by the time they got him, I think he was putting things together. Sam probably thought that he owned more than what he thought. It's crazy. Like with the Tupac thing, right? I think I remember the 2020 special, something like almost 20 years ago. They came out around the time Tupac died. They were talking about Tupac. I think Tupac in his last year of life, he was dealing with death row. He made them like $80 million. He made $80 million his last year of life, but how much did he really see of that 80 million? Like they say, he kept on asking to see the books, and they'll give him like a new car or watch or something like that, or a home. But I'm saying this is just weird to me that in the entertainment industry complex, the people who make the most money are the least talented people. Let me say this again. It seems strange to me that in the entertainment industry complex, the people who make the most money are the least talented. You got folks performing until they like 90 or 80 years old. But I was thinking, well, so-and-so, they love to perform. They might love to perform, but I don't think anybody really wants to perform for their dinner at 80 years old. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Mick Jagger and them love to perform, but it's different to me. I look at B.B. King. Was B.B. King really up to performing towards the end of his life? I mean, B.B. King had them bills and them kids. I'm just saying, like, I look at people. I look at the really wealthy people, excuse me, in this world. The really wealthy people don't work for they sucker. Their money work for them. They don't. A lot of them never had jobs. Look at the royal family. I doubt Queen Elizabeth knows how to clean a toilet. I really do doubt that. Let alone, I doubt she ever washed dishes in her life. You know what I'm saying? Think about what I'm saying. You got a lot of poor people working several jobs, can even barely pay the rent or eat at the same time. You got to make these damn life-defining choices where you got other people that can just go through life and not, they probably got somebody wipe their own ass. Literally. I mean, they got things that can spray water. Oh, they're going to get to that. But what I'm saying is, think about what I'm saying. The most talented folks in the entertainment industry get the less money. And let's go back to Monique. Monique has a right to be angry about what Netflix presented to her. I like Netflix is doing her a favor. Well, they in the business to make the most money they can. They're a corporation. They are in a capitalistic system. Nobody does you a favor. It's like Charlie Parker. Let me get back to Bird. Charlie Parker practiced his saxophone for 11 to 15 hours a day for 4 or 5 years. He did that for 4 to 5 years for practicing his saxophone for 11 to 15 hours a day. And what's the price tag for that? Is that worth $500,000? Dedicating 5 years of your life, practicing your saxophone for 15 hours a day? Does $500,000 cover the compensation for you to develop the sacrifices that were made to develop that talent? They say it takes about 10,000 hours to become a master at anything. That you need about 10,000 hours of working on whatever you work on in order to become a master at it. So what I'm saying is that how are y'all qualified? How are we qualified to tell Monique what her worth is, what her value is? Y'all talking about what she just did. Dave Chappelle went, look, Whoopi Goldberg won them all. She won her Emmy, her Tony, her Oscar, her Golden Globes, all the major entertainment awards. Whoopi Goldberg has won them. So if she wanted to get $30 million from Netflix, she's not worthy because for whatever reason. Is Amy Schumer more talented than Whoopi Goldberg? Is she more talented than Monique? And that's all subjective. That's all subjective. I don't care who's that, but I'm saying know your worth. It's like just because this is the most money you've ever seen does not make this the best deal for you to take. Once again, just because this is the most money you ever seen does not make this the best deal for you to take. And people are saying stuff. I said we are very much programmed in this matrix. I heard people saying on some videos, comment sections, She hadn't performed in a club in years. She was just in Memphis not too long ago. Several weeks ago, Monique was in Memphis at the club. You know what I'm saying? She has been performing. It's like Cat Williams. I don't know how much Cat Williams got, but I'm sure that I hope that Cat Williams will get something in the several $1 million range. He just got a comedy special on Netflix. I like Cat Williams. I think he's funny. And I think he had to pay a price. I know he paid the price for being a truth teller. Because things never been the same since he did that one comedy special, I believe, on HBO, when he was exposing the Hollywood lifestyle. And that's when he started having all those troubles. Like Monique, when you start exposing things, this is when you start beginning to have all them troubles. It's like I remember like 20-something years ago when Oprah almost lost it all because she had a talk show topic on the meat industry. And I think she said she don't mess with beef. You know, Oprah is what they call an influencer. She has a lot of influence upon people in their decision-making machinations. Like, people really respect Oprah for her points of views, and she's a trendsetter and an influencer. So the beef industry took her ass to court, and it shook her ass. Oprah never been the same since then. Once they said, yo, this nigga when's gonna go at us like this? Oh, hell no. You mess with the white man's money. Anytime you mess with the white man's way of making money, coming for your ass. They're gonna be gunning for you. Like Sam Cooke, threatening the white man's way of making money, they gunning for his ass. It's like Otis Redding, they guns for his ass. Anybody that comes along, it was like I remember reading about how distribution, like I talked about recently with Oscar Micheaux, the pioneer, really the father of filmmaking. You know, they talking about D.W. Griffith, but Oscar Micheaux is up there with him. The black man who Dick Gregory said the Oscars is named after. He said something about if you want to have a successful business, you got to have finance, talent, and distribution. If you control 1 out of 3, you're a voice. If you control 2 out of 3, you're a force. Let me name it again. The ingredients of a successful business: finance, talent, and distribution. You're at a point, like, and within the last 15 years, where you had Suge Knight, Jay Prince, that's named Jay Prince down rap a lot, Irv Gotti, the Ink, all they were trying to come together to control the distribution of their music. And what happened? What happened? Most of them cats caught cases, man. Look at Suge Knight right now. Look what almost happened to Irv Gotti, you know, with dealing with the Supreme team. You know, Supreme McGriff, that's the brother name. The Supreme team of the Queens. Big time drug kingpin, you know, alleged financier behind the Ink. Then you look at Suge Knight, his alleged financier for death row was the brother Michael Harry O. Harris from the Cocaine Cowboys from L.A., who actually helped jumpstart Denzel Washington's career. He financed the Broadway play that introduced Denzel Washington. That's Michael Harry O. Harris. Look at the documentary Welcome to Death Row. But as soon as them brothers try to get together, control the distribution of their intellectual property, of their black talent, that's when they start catching them cases from the feds. Like I said, you see what happened to Suge, you see what happened to Irv Gotti. Luckily, he beat the rap, and you know, you look what happened. But they're no longer threats. But everybody know in this system, if you want to have power, you must be organized, and you can't do it by yourself. The problem with the Monique situation, it's not necessarily Monique, but it's more so that we don't stick together on nothing. I was glad to hear what Wanda Sykes had to say, like how she was really, really lowballed, you know, more so than Monique was by Netflix. Wanda Sykes been around for some years. She's been putting in that work. You know what I'm saying? She hold on with the best. But yeah, they were all giving her what, 200,000 or 250,000 until Monique 500,000. And she didn't take it, and she went to Epics and got a better deal. And hopefully Monique will find a silver lining in this. And I wish her well, but I don't have the venom or the hatred that a lot of us or some of us tend to have in this social media matrix when it comes to our sister. I don't believe she was throwing Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock under the bus. Dave Chappelle is my favorite living comedian. I just know Dave Chappelle was called crazy when he walked away from $50 million. But y'all need to check out what Cat Williams had to say about that recently, I believe. within the last week or several weeks. He basically said that Dave Chappelle was not walking away from 50 million. He was walking away from the bullshit. Because basically, my understanding that the Comedy Central, according to Cat Williams, owed Dave Chappelle more of that 500 million. He made them 500 million. He made them 500 million. And they was just give him 50 million. He wanted more of a cut of that 500 million, according to Cat Williams. And people call him crazy, but now he got his money. Getting paid $20 million for these, comedy specials. He having, comedy stand-up specials and selling out his dates and stuff like that. So people thought he was crazy for walking away from $50 million over 10 years ago. And now he's back and he's hot and people saying he's not funny. No, he's doing what a comedian's supposed to do. He making your ass uncomfortable and laugh at the same time. That's what the great ones were all about. The Richard Pryors and the George Carlins and Lenny Bruce. I don't even think Lenny Bruce would have a career right now. Being honest with you, just listen to his stuff. He would not have no career. And I just make you question how far we came. But what I'm saying is, I don't have that type of venom towards Monique. I met Monique 10 years ago during the 40th anniversary observation of the Dr. King sacrifice, crucifixion in Memphis. She was at the Peabody. That night, I also met Cicely Tyson, Marilee Evers, the widow of Medgar Evers, and Al Sharpton. We actually was attending an event because my mom was a key organizer to get volunteers for Al Sharpton for his National Action Network because they had their conference that week at the Peabody Hotel downtown. And my mom, man, she's like a miracle worker. Like she's good at getting people organized, and she was able to do that the last minute. And people still talk about that to this day because she helped organize the volunteer for Alex Haley's funeral. And she was like one of the early volunteer organizers for the National Civil Rights Museum when I was growing up 20-something years ago. But to say all this to say, I met Monique. I gave her a print of a picture. And you see my recent YouTube video about me talking about my thoughts about this Monique thing. I gave her a print of my picture of Billie Holiday. She was impressed by it. And I was impressed by Monique because she could tell that she had a love for people, man. Like she was a people person. She was no phony. She was authentic and she was humble and she was happy to be there among her people. And like I said, people talking about, well, she's done work this. How the hell are you going to tell somebody what they work when your ass is working minimum wage for $11 when you should be getting paid $30 an hour for minimum wage? When minimum wage should be $30 an hour. Y'all talking about fight for 15. Y'all getting paid $11 or $10 or $5. Y'all talking about, and then y'all trying to tell what another person's going to be worth? How are we going to tell somebody else what their value is? We don't know our value. I don't know my value. This stuff we got to start questioning now. They thought Sam Cooke was crazy. They thought Otis Redding was crazy. Anybody that try to take control of their talent and their destiny, you're crazy because if you're not white, you're not right. You don't have the right to try to say that you're going to do something with your God-given talent, that you're going to be able to feed yourself and your family with your God-given talent, nigga. You don't have the right. I'm the white man. I tell you what the fuck to do. And y'all believe that shit. Monique, she needed some backup. Like, Jada Pinkett Smith, we all lost in the wilderness, man. People all talking about, well, we the chosen people. Hell, we like you lost in the wilderness. Been lost for 400 years. Fuck 40 years. Been 400 years. Lost in the wilderness. Like I need help. They do me like this. They do me like this over here. Wait a minute, sister. Wait a minute, brother. We got the same problem. Let's team up. No, I don't trust her. No, I don't trust him. But y'all trust this same person that been doing you doggedly for generations. Y'all have no problem trusting them. We have no problem trusting them, but we're afraid to trust our own selves. We're afraid to take a chance on ourselves. We talking about we gonna be alienated. You always been invisible, nigga. You always invisible. You only visible when there's a problem and need somebody to blame. That's the only time you are visible to this structure. And I'm not gonna call it no white supremacy. Y'all been talking about some white supremacy. It's like that's worse than prosperity preaching to me. This white supremacy religion, white supremacy, this, goddamn white supremacy. Look, well, I'm telling y'all, 2018, don't follow me, follow the information. Go out there and research what I'm saying. Don't just take my word for this shit. I'm telling y'all this shit. I've been telling y'all some googly mock. I'm taking my shit as the final say on this. Go out there and research. I'm a thought provocateur, man. All the time, well, prove this to us. No, I'm not going to prove it to you. I have to. Shit, prove it to yourself. Well, I just told you I read something. They bamboozle the best of us. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you be made a fool of. We all have been made a fool of at one point in time. And a lot of us still going to get, till the day we die. Everybody plays the fool. No exception to the rules, okay? So don't feel bad about that. But once you know better, you should do better. So with the Sam Cooke thing, this is the same stuff that Sam Cooke was dealing with. Like I told you, when he was in the barbershop and people thought he was insane for trying to own his own shit. Look at Otis Redding. They thought he was crazy. They killing folks for ideas. Ideas are powerful. They've been killing folks over ideas for generations. I have a dream. Not anymore, nigga. Well, I think, not anymore. But you can't be afraid. See, we all use these things. I knew about what happened to Emmett Till when I was 10 years old. I'm 37 now. I known about this. First and foremost, I'm from Memphis. My folks are from Mississippi. I used to volunteer at the Civil Rights Museum as a tour guide when I was 12 years old. I knew about the Emmett Till thing growing up since elementary. But the thing about it is, it should not make you afraid to live your life. A lot of us, we tell these tales to scare us. And we pass that trauma along to our children. They pass along to their children. Live bold, man, or don't live at all. Look at the Kennedys, man. Of course, they died tragically and shit. They still ran for office. They still lived their lives. They still flew their planes. They still did what they want to do, man, because that's life. And it's funny, you start studying these elite families. A lot of times people say, well, they send poor people off to die for these wars. But nah, look at the Roosevelts. Look at the Kennedys. They have lost loved ones. You know what I'm saying? The eldest son of the Kennedy clan, Patrick Kennedy, died, got blown up in Europe in his plane. Look at Theodore Roosevelt. He lost a son in World War I. His son, Quentin Roosevelt, was a pilot. This is during the early days of aviation. He was shot down by a Red Baron. A Red Baron, not the pizza, okay, y'all. Red Baron pizza killed Quentin Roosevelt? No. Red Baron was the top ace pilots of Germany. They were called Red Barons. So he was shot down by some Red Barons. They had a funeral for him. These Germans came out. You had like 1,000 of them salute this guy. Gave him a warrior's state-like funeral where they dropped him because they found out he was the son of a president. And Theodore Roosevelt was popular among the Europeans because he was about that white power. He was a white supremacist, as y'all call him. But he was complicated in his own way too. But what I'm saying is that he lost a son and might have killed him and broke his heart. Roosevelt was interested because he went to South America down in Brazil and almost died on an expedition to prove that a river existed. The River of Doubt. And they renamed it after him, the River of Doubt. But he had to prove but people doubted that this river existed in the Amazon. This man almost died in the tropics. This type of life, these guys, they led incredible lives. They took chances, man. You can't be afraid to live life and risk it all, man. Like the Kennedys. JFK made a lot of powerful enemies. Y'all afraid, CIA, man, it was CIA, the Russians, the Cubans, the mob, anybody who got JFK. It's a long list. You know what I'm saying? But he was not afraid to be bold, to live out his life, man. You can't be afraid, man. You gonna be afraid because niggas are scared of bills, like Dick was saying. I ain't gonna tell nobody not to be afraid because it's spooky, scary shit out here. But what I would say, what Dick would say, he said, God and fear cannot exist in the same place. Go with God. Go with yourself. You got God in you. You are God's and goddesses for real. You manifest your reality. But what I'm saying is the wealthy folks had their kids get killed. And even in World War II, Theodore Roosevelt lost another son, a son who went down the River of Doubt with him after he was an ex-president. This son was very close to his father. He was a general. He led people on the shores of Normandy during D-Day. This guy had heart problems. And he was out there on the front lines, getting off, on the front line, getting shot at by all types of shit and directing traffic on the beaches, man. This man was directing traffic on the beaches, getting shot at on D-Day invasion. with a bad heart, ended up dying of a heart attack not too long after that, during World War II. And he's buried next to his brother Quentin Roosevelt in the American GI section of a cemetery over in France. You know, what I'm saying is he lost. I mean, Roosevelt had some casualties in war. Kennedy had some casualties. You know what I'm saying? These wealthy folks, they know how to live in terms of they fight for what they want. They're not afraid to do what they got to do to get what they want. What is interesting about this, like I said, organization, not being a lone wolf. Look at the example of Bill Cosby. He alienated himself from black people, and this is why they got him. Look at Marion Barry. As much shit that people talk about Marion Barry, the community always had Marion Barry back, because what he did was he empowered his community. He made sure that cats coming home from prison got a second chance. He made sure that children who wanted summer jobs, regardless of their socio-economic situation in the DC area, got those jobs. He made sure that the government of DC dealt business with minority subcontractors. He made sure that the government hired people that looked like him, of a darker hue. He looked out for his people. He created a business class of black folks who became rich off of doing business with him. And he was an honest man. And what I mean by honest man, he was an honest politician. He was not crooked. Now, how they portray him because of his personal shortcomings, that's a different issue. But he died broke. When he died broke, man. Because he was a public servant. He was for the people. Because every time I go to DC, they love Marion Barry. You know, them folks love him, man, because he was for the people. He loved his people. And he served his people. He empowered his people. And that's what public servants supposed to do. He didn't like enrich himself. He enriched his people. So when he got in trouble, you know, people had his back. The people had his back. So people got to understand that, like, what good of me? What good is it if I'm a millionaire and my people around me are broke? I mean, I want to get away from my people. When the win will be for me to make them well off some type of way. It's like if I'm a billionaire, I'm gonna make sure the people around me gonna be millionaires. You understand? I'm gonna look out for them, and they ain't gonna bother me. I have a posse because it's all about organization and organizing. People talking about institute building, and we're not really serious about institute building. We're more serious about the building fund than the actual building. And I mean building. I'm not talking about a physical concrete brick and mortar building. I'm talking about the culture in terms of the code. What's the code? What's the plan and plan of action? How do we create more people that think in a certain way, that vibrate on a certain frequency? These are important things that we need to realize. If we had more black record label owners back in that time, would they have killed Sam Cooke? Would they have been able to kill him so easily? Or Otis Redding, or people like that? Like I said, Sam Cooke went through a lot of stuff, man. He was a fighter, though, man. Like, he died at 33, but like I said, he had that real big car accident. He almost lost his life. His first wife ended up getting killed tragically in a one-person car accident. He paid for a funeral. Lost his life under questionable, very questionable circumstances. Lost his intellectual property, like his daughter. You know, it's kind of complicated. You can read certain versions of what happened and what's going on. My understanding, like, you know, the thing about it is the APCO people, Alan Klein's company, was paying Sam's widow because she controlled his estate, whatever, royalties here and there. But what's a couple $100,000 when you're making millions off a man's catalog? Sam Cooke was a genius. You hear his music in commercials and stuff. Alan Klein been dead since 2009, but his family controls the company, and they control Sam Cooke's masters, not just his masters. Chubby Checkers, a lot of the people, they eating off of Rolling Stone stuff. They did business with the Beatles, but this is the nature of the beast, man. Like they said, it's not personal, it's business, but business is warfare. Business is warfare. So I will hope that what's the latest on Prince Legacy? I don't know. I mean, you tell me what the latest on Prince Legacy. MLK murder. I mean, I made a mistake, brother Ron. I confused you for someone else in the past thing and be more my mistake. I appreciate it. Research. I know Dr. Clyde Anderson is. Man Barry made a lot of black millionaires in DC. He sure did. Kari Rashid, thank you so much. I don't see the thing about it. I'm not interested in following people no more. I'm more interested in following information. I'm a researcher on people. People, we are just tools in the universe tool belt. I mean, ain't no do nobody no good to follow so and so and so and so. Like I said, so and so will always disappoint you. When Brother Malcolm found out what Elijah Muhammad was doing to them little girl, young girls, them pretty young things, it disappointed him. But that was Elijah Muhammad business. And was it consensual? I don't know. I mean, everybody got their reasons for what they do. I can't judge people, righteously by the standards of today. Just like this Me Too stuff. I mean, what's the cutoff? How do you interpret rape or sexual misconduct? What was the culture of the time? This is interesting. This stuff is interesting because even, people say, well, Me Too thing was established by a black woman. How would the Me Too people look at Sam Cooke if this happened? If they had social media, they had this thing going on. Is Sam Cooke, I mean, if he's accused of attempting to rape somebody and he loses his life in the process, does it make him a bad person? I mean, does he get the benefit of the doubt? It's like what Dave Chappelle said about R. Kelly with this same dude, as he's allegedly peeing on this young lady, not young lady, but young girl, same guy that wrote, I Believe I Could Fly. People have conflicting motives, but you look at the Bible, the most celebrated people from the Bible are dysfunctional people. The God used dysfunctional people to deliver perfect messages. I didn't say he did anything wrong. I don't want the nation on my neck. I said what Elijah Muhammad did. He, had sex with young women or young ladies decades younger than he was. But people used to do that back in the day. They used to marry, my grandma, my paternal grandma's father, and when he married his wife, he started having his kids real late, but his wife was young. So there was nothing unusual about that. But with Elijah Muhammad, he had several women. He impregnated several women with his seed, and they were young women. And Malcolm, when he found out about it, he confronted Elijah on it, and Elijah told him some things, some biblical stuff. But I think Malcolm was very disappointed in finding it out, and y'all should research that stuff. This is stuff, like I said, like when people talk about, well, so-and-so can't measure up to so-and-so. I said the so-and-so, let's say so-and-so won't pass MLK's character test. I don't think MLK could pass MLK's character test. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all, I mean, we hard on our greats, man. We are hard on our greats, man. We just expect a lot out of them, and we just hard on people, man. Like, we just hard on people, and people just people. That's what I'm trying to say in my message. But y'all should research the Sam Cooke thing, and you look at all this stuff, these assassinations, like with the JFK, RFK, MLK, and Malcolm X. Remember these things. The crime scene is always contaminated. JFK thing, as soon as he was shot in the limousine, I think out of the Parkland Hospital, they cleaning up the evidence in the limousine. They sending the limousine back to the manufacturer to get, remodeled, redone, whatever, to get, cut up the crime. Same thing with MLK. He allegedly, the shot came from the bushes. What they do the next morning, the city of Memphis cut down the bushes to make the evidence. Dr. King gets shot on the balcony. Next thing you know, they up there mopping up the balcony and everything, cleaning up all the evidence. Malcolm X get killed at the Audubon. Next thing you know, a black church having a dance party the same night they killed Malcolm. A black church have a dance party in the same place. And when people say it's a building, don't mean it's the same. It was in the same room where they killed Malcolm. They had a church dance. You can research this shit. It's all online. So, I say to people, be wise. Thank y'all for listening. Wallace Muhammad was the one that told Malcolm about his father. And he was the one who ended the Nation of Islam. And, Farrakhan brought it back because Wallace Muhammad got into the more orthodox, I think it was Sunni version of Islam. Malcolm was murdered. Malcolm was basically dead on the stage. They shot him in the chest, which is kind of interesting. Dude, Eugene Roberts, his chief bodyguard, was undercover New York police officer trying to resuscitate him. He got holes in his chest, man. His lungs are through. Elijah Muhammad did a lot of things. I mean, he set an example. Nobody's great. Like Marcus Garvey couldn't pass no litmus test with the people here. Our people are very hypercritical. Marcus Garvey couldn't make it in the social media climate that we are in right now. I'm just saying, like, you know, people are suspect for everything. We can't get nobody no type of breaks, man. Yeah, he was yeah. Wallace was a successor. He was a successor, but he didn't want it. He didn't want it that way. He ended up ending it because he ended up becoming more mainstream with his version of Islam, and he, you know, he was respected. He was highly respected from my understanding in the Islamic world. You know, he went the more orthodox way, but he was the one, from my understanding, that made Malcolm aware of the shortcomings of his father, because, you know, he was the product of his father's first wife. He was the product of his father's first wife. So, about to wrap this up. I know I started late. Thank y'all for listening. And I don't know if anybody donated anything, but you can always donate, support the movement, the cause. So I'm trying to be more consistent in putting stuff out there. And the powers that be make it hard. They want to censor people. They want to shut people down. They want to discourage people, but always stay encouraged, because where there's light, there's still hope. And I hope I said something tonight that might, that might help you in your journey or discovery, your self-discovery. But I just wanted to put that out there in the airways because it's the late great Sam Cooke is his birthday today, and the ancestor, regardless of how he fell short, he allowed God to use him for a great work in terms of his phenomenal voice. And I always tell people that the ancestors talk to us through those recordings. It's not always the actual words they're saying. It's the spirit. You know, you hear things like it's this thing musicians call ghost notes. They call it ghost notes. It's like, what I mean by ghost notes is like when a musician plays something, or you think you heard them play something they didn't play. Like if they play a saxophone or piano, you might hear an extra chord or note. They didn't actually play it, but somehow you heard it. It's kind of like how people say read between the lines. And this is how you got to look at life sometimes. It's not all about what is said or what is done. Sometimes what's not said or what's implied, and what's not done, but what's implied. So I want to encourage y'all to become the greatest critical thinkers that you can become. Question everything, including me, because when you question me, that means you're going to do the research, and you're going to help educate me. That's how you keep the cycle and the circle of educational empowerment going, because we got to learn how to educate ourselves better about who we are, because I want us to understand our greatness. And what we're messing up at is that we're not being kind to ourselves like we should. I'm talking about you being kind to yourself. You personally have a healthy relationship with yourself before you have it with anybody else. We need to start taking time to separate ourselves sometimes from the pack, to have time to reflect upon ourselves and to see the things. Because it's like that movie with Bill Murray, Groundhog Day. You'll keep on repeating the same things until you learn your lesson. And in order to learn the lesson, you must apply what you learn to your life and amplify what is implied, what is applied, and make it work in your favor, man. You got the power. It's like Monique, people are critical now, but she might get $100 million deal or $1 billion deal, or she might help spark the mind that changed the game. That's why ideas are very powerful. That's why you should share your ideas, because I remember I talked to this brother who had a literary foundation to train Black authors. And he told me something that was very powerful. He told me something, Ron, just because you didn't read that book does not mean that the words in that book did not impact your life. I never read Uncle Tom's Cabin, but Uncle Tom's Cabin helped start the Civil War. Thomas Paine's common sense, and rights of man helped start the American Revolutionary War. Words create worlds. Like Dr. Black would say, brother named Dr. Black, words create worlds. The power of words. Dr. King understood the power of words. Malcolm X understood the power of words. Sam Cooke understood the power of words. That's why he wrote A Change Gonna Come. He wrote that actually in response to Bob Dylan, I think Blowing in the Wind. Y'all could correct me in the comments, but Bob Dylan wrote a song. Bob Dylan's interesting. I did not even understand that Bob Dylan, he had a fetish or a thing for black women. Bob Dylan had a thing for black women. He got children by black women. I know a sister who's a great civil rights activist that I had to interview for the We All Be News. She was in a relationship with Bob Dylan during the civil rights movement, during the 60s. Bob Dylan used to visit her down in Tougaloo College outside of Jackson, Mississippi during the 60s. He wrote songs about her, famous songs about her. And her name is Sister Dory Ladner. I'm going to say her name, Dory Ladner. I got to talk to that sister. I saw her at Barbara Gregory's funeral when I was in town. But Dory Ladner was the love interest of Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan liked black women. It's like Robert De Niro. I didn't know that reason. But anyway, he wrote that song, A Change Gonna Come, in response to what Bob Dylan wrote, I think, In the Wind, or some song like that. Bob Dylan also did a song about Emmett Till from back in the day. Y'all should check that song out. Bob Dylan was a great lyricist. You might not love his voice, but he had the lyrics. The words create worlds. But he wrote Change Gonna Come, and it came out after he was dead. His biggest hit, his posthumous hit, is like Johnny H. with Pledge of My Love. So Sam Cooke knew what he was doing. He loved his people. He chose to be a black man. He chose to be great. He chose his vision. And I don't want people, when we talk about Sam Cooke, to be afraid to be great. Like Muhammad Ali was not afraid to be great. It's like Malcolm was not afraid. Otis was not afraid. Don't you be afraid. These are our ancestors. They knew it's a price to pay. America is always trying to emasculate the greats. What did Jay-Z say? America always trying to emasculate the greats. Kill Malcolm and gave Cassius the shakes. Yeah, I ain't hearing me though, man. Fight for your manhood. Fight to be a man. Be a man. Don't just be a male. Just don't be a person. Be a man. Fight for yours. Be you, man. I mean, for anybody, just be you. You cannot be authentic and make a contribution without being you. The civil rights movement was all about sexual access. So did Elvis. And you know what I mean? Everybody got a point. I heard some things. I remember if you tell me about Freedom Summer, I heard some things about some of the elders and the veterans. They'll tell me some things about the movement days. You know, that's free love time. It's about free love, right? Hippie love and all that stuff. We could talk about that on another show. But I hope I said it's something that could stay with y'all, that resonated with the people. Paul Robeson definitely was not afraid. And we don't even talk about Paul Robeson like we should. But we've been programmed, because I think it's funny, because I send out things that's about empowerment that don't get a lot of likes or shares. But I get the same things in my inbox on Facebook. These make this go viral from different people, from different walks of life, to let you know we've been programmed. Just like the stuff I'm saying tonight, it's not going to be popular. It's not going to be accepted, but it is what it is. You know, that's how I know I'm fighting the right battle, because everybody ain't trying to hear it. You know, sometimes, you know, like with Steve Coakley. I mean, Steve Coakley was fighting an uphill battle with his people, man. He was saying some very uncomfortable things about people that we love and admire. And that's what we got to get away from that, because nobody's above criticism. It's like nobody's above an ass whooping. I know I heard, you know, people saying, no, nobody's above it. But at the same time, you got a right to self-defense. You got a right to defend yourself. You got a right to be yourself. But you got to be willing to pay the price for those things. These brothers on my shirt that I did, Malcolm and Muhammad, they paid the price. Killed Malcolm, gave Cassius the shakes. They paid the price, man. Don't you be afraid when that time comes. Everybody deserves those moments, them defining moments to really figure out who you are. Baba Dick, you be the Baba Dick. You don't need Baba Dick back. Baba Dick ain't never gone nowhere, man. Y'all, the ancestors, like, y'all want people to spoon feed y'all. Sometimes you got to experience stuff on your own and bring something to the table. It ain't always about coming over for dinner and eating somebody else's food. You should bring something for everybody else to eat as well, too. Contribute to the conversation in terms of food for thought. Yeah, I want all to stay strong. And it's a process, man. Nobody's born. You got to choose to live. You can choose to die. But choose, goddamn it, choose. It's like I put this Bunchy Carter to paraphrase him. If all you do is spit, nigga, spit. Do something. That's all you do because like that's universal law. For every action, there's a reaction. Just do something. Do something. Thank y'all. Thank you, Nicole, Nicholas Johnson. Thank you. Thank you for it's my shirt. Y'all can buy the shirt. All this stuff available. Subscription. We all be great show. Thank y'all. Y'all make it great. Like I said, this show is gonna continue to evolve. I have a call-in feature and all this stuff. I help my moderators and stuff. Dick Gregory's wife is very shy. Actually, what y'all can do, their anniversary is coming up on February the 2nd. Y'all can make sure y'all send y'all love out to her on social media and whatnot. Because it's gonna be her first, her first anniversary without her Baba, without Dick Gregory around. And I know that she's, I know she's hurting right now. But this send out y'all love that way on February 2nd is their wedding anniversary. Well, Steve Coker, who he called out a lot of people. No problem. I just whenever y'all get, I drop some names in here. So I drop a bevy of information in here. So y'all enjoy yourselves, enjoy the rest of your night. Thank y'all for tuning in. As always, in the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. And thank y'all for the contributions and for the encouragement. And we love y'all madly.